What is up, my friends? We are here on another episode of Level After Next podcast, where every week we're going to be your accountability. We're going to give you the inspiration. We're going to hopefully make you laugh a little bit. And at the end, you're going to have every desire to go forth and slay. So let's do this. What's going on, my friends? Today, we are diving back into gut health. I know maybe you're like, Katie, we get it. Gut health. We get it. I don't know if you do, though. It is so incredibly important. So today I have another expert, Avery Leigh, a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner. That's the whole thing. You can call her an FDNP. She's on a mission to guide women toward optimal gut health, balanced hormones, and using a holistic approach to healing. She investigates those hidden root causes to chronic gut and hormone imbalances through advanced functional lab testing, custom protocols, and nutrition coaching. So she is able to integrate a multi-dimensional approach, helping clients remove physical, energetic blocks through somatic healing and subconscious reprogramming practices so that they can become their highest and healthiest self. Her goal is to empower women to listen to their body's inner wisdom and become their own best healer. I love everything about this. I'm hoping that in this one episode, we can all just become our best selves. But in the event that it's going to take a little more than that, hence the lab testing and stuff, I'm going to go ahead and send you to the show notes where you can find all the information, where to connect, things you can learn from our Instagram, and a whole lot more. All right, here we go. What's up? I'm so excited. We have Avery Leigh on the show today. I've already told you almost everything that I could about her, but she gets to come in and fill in the gaps and teach us all the things that we don't know, you guys. Like, we think, oh, I take probiotics. And Avery, would you say that that is a solid way to just like make it through life with a healthy gut?
Not necessarily. Depends.
It's one of those things where, you know, it's just like, we hear the buzzword, we go, I mean, I have it all the time, people with collagen, and and then they just go and grab it. And they're like, well, now I'm taking collagen, you know, without really understanding the importance of the strains and how to take them and what else you need to do to kind of support that. So we're going to get into all of that. But first, I would just love if you kind of like gave us your background. I looked through it a little bit. It's fascinating. It's interesting. It is probably a book in itself. Can you share with us kind of where you came from and how you got here?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on. I'm excited for today. So my story, I've had gut issues for my entire life, as long as I can remember. I would skip school like every other week because of stomach pains. And growing up, I never could figure out what it was. I went to multiple doctors. My parents would take me to GI doctors, and they would say, I got like surgery done, just not surgery, but like a procedure to see if they could figure out if there was ulcers or lactose intolerance or anything. And they're like, nope, everything's fine. It's just stress. And that procedure was when I was 12. So I was like, all right, well, I guess this is just my life. And so I kind of went through the rest of the years up until a few years ago, just kind of accepting that that's how I was going to be living. And also during that time, I was completely in the Western medicine world, which is, as you know, it's when you go to the doctor and you tell them your symptoms and they give you a pill. So I had gone to my OBGYN when I was 16, and I was on oral birth control, hormones. And then I eventually started to get sick. So I was having sinus infections all throughout college. And at the time, I had no idea that getting sick all the time was related to my gut health, but 70% of our immune system is actually in our gut. So the pieces everything started to click. And that's when I kind of started to look for a more natural approach. And so I found a naturopath when I was in college, and I decided I was done taking like antibiotics and things like that if I could at all avoid it. And so when I went to my naturopath, that's when I had gotten a functional medicine testing done for the first time. And it completely opened my world. I remember I got what's called a GI map, which is a stool test that checks for the gut microbiome health, inflammation markers. And I remember getting it I was in a car dealership in college. And by the way, I went to school for finance. So this was not my background at all, but I've always been super passionate about like nutrition and all that. And so I remember getting my lab results and I was like, this is so interesting. So I started researching every single marker that I could find before I even had the meeting with my doctor. And I had E. coli, I had H. pylori, I had candida, yeast overgrowth. Like I had all these different markers that had never been mentioned or even like tested for with traditional Western medicine doctors that I had seen my whole life. And so I was like, wow, there's another way. Like there's another way that I can actually heal. And even though I had like a lot of crap going on, I was so relieved because I knew that I could actually I had answers and I could do something about it. So fast forward a few years, I had switched from the hormonal birth control to the copper IUD. At the time, I thought that was like the healthier alternative. And it's still, now I know that it still does mess with your hormones. Copper raises estrogen. That can cause a lot of other issues. And so throughout those next few years, this was up until like, I think I got my copper IUD removed end of January 2022. And up until that point, I had been really getting more into the holistic health space, trying to see like what else I could change about my diet, what supplements I should be taking, like doing as much research as I possibly could. And so I got the copper IUD removed. And then about a month or two later, I actually had a crash where I still had symptoms up until that point. Like my gut was still a mess. And I had noticed some hair was falling out and I was like, okay, I need to get some more blood work done and all of that. And so then I got the copper IUD out. And then that month later I crashed and I felt like I had never experienced mental health symptoms like that in my life. Like I had crippling anxiety every time I woke up. I could barely do the dishes because I was so depressed. I didn't understand what was happening. And I didn't actually link that it could have been from the copper IUD because I had it for 3 years. And so I think a lot of people can relate to that. It's like they don't necessarily know what's going on, but they know something is off and they just like don't feel like themselves in their body. And it's really, really overwhelming because you don't know when it's going to end. And so for me, of course, I found another naturopath and they gave me zinc supplements. That was one of the things in the protocol. And knowing what I know now from my practitioner training, that actually made things worse because zinc can cause copper to dump into the body too quickly. And that can cause more mental health symptoms. So it's like I was trying to do the right thing in the holistic health space, but then it kind of backfired on me. So I took it upon myself to research as much as I possibly could during that time. Again, I was still working in finance, so I was spending every second not working, researching how to heal myself because I could barely function at that point, honestly. Like I was working from home. I was not working my 9 to 5 like I should have been. And it also just wasn't aligned with my purpose at the time. So it was like this big internal shift as well with the health stuff. And then also like, I knew that wasn't going to be my path going forward. So I had all these moving parts going on at once. And so
out of alignment in every way, right?
Yeah, it was like the biggest spiritual awakening of my life. And then I was like, is this like a spiritual sign? Is this a spiritual awakening? Or is there something wrong with my body? Like I didn't know. I felt so off. And so then I made the decision that like I was going to figure out how to make this a career because I had actually started to notice changes. The research that I had been doing, I was trying a bunch of different things and I could see that it was getting a little bit better. And so then from my research, I came across my practitioner program, which I'm an FDN, so functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner. And the cool thing about this training is it taught me how to interpret functional labs. And so the labs that I had gotten run by my naturopath years before, now I could run them myself and I could understand them and learn how to build protocols and help myself and also help other women, because I mainly work with women now. And so that was like a really pivotal moment for me to realize that I can figure this out myself and what I've been doing and building my own protocols is actually working. And so over the next 9 months or so, I was living in San Diego at the time. I put all of my stuff in storage. I was no longer working in finance. I booked a one-way flight to Guatemala, and I had to be dramatic, I guess, but did like a solo backpacking trip. Guatemala, lived in Medellin, Colombia. Meanwhile, I was building my business. Um, I was studying for my practitioner training. I was doing practicals, writing protocols, running labs on myself too to like learn more about everything. And yeah, it's been a whirlwind since then, but it's been amazing. And so after my travels, I moved back to Tampa and opened my practice officially, graduated as an FDN, and have been working with clients one-on-one and in my 4-month program. And I've never felt better. And it's just really cool to see how I've been able to apply this knowledge and teach other women to like empower them with the tools, right? Because I don't want to just tell someone what to do. I want to explain what's happening and how to heal from the ground up, like from a root cause level.
I love that. And I think we kind of chatted a little bit before the show about just the entrepreneur aspect of it. I, first of all, love a person who's willing to just drop everything and go for what feels like it's probably the best, you know? It's hard, you know, in this society. It's like you choose a lane, you stay in it, you're miserable, but that's what you're going to do for the rest of your life. And so that just takes so much, I don't know, strength and tenacity and really all the things it takes to become an entrepreneur in general. What was it like coming back and knowing that you wanted to start a practice, and where did you start with that, with developing that? And then you mentioned a 4-month program. Is that typically how long people work with you?
Yeah. It's my program's called Becoming Magnetic. And so I work one-on-one. I do a series of functional labs up front, and then I work with them on nutrition, mindset, exercise, and supplement protocols based on their lab results. And to answer your question, the transition was definitely hard, especially coming from that like rigid masculine structure finance world where you're just meant to like work until you die. And, you know, I always knew that it was out of alignment, like long term, but that's kind of why I was planting the seeds while I still worked there. I was building my Instagram account, just sharing what I loved doing and what I was learning from my hours and hours of research and podcasts and documentaries and all these things. So I started sharing that. I was getting a lot of feedback and really good feedback from people that were finding me on Instagram. And I loved it. Like, I just love sharing knowledge and teaching and empowering. And so it just became like a natural evolution for me to use Instagrams mainly how I find clients or attract them. And so throughout that process, so just finding them on Instagram. And then also with building my program, that was all online, like self-taught, researching different programs, how to build a course, because I had so much knowledge. I was like, okay, I want to like, if I can visualize it in my mind, then I can obviously make it happen. So that's what I spent a lot of my time doing when I was traveling and working, was building the framework of my program. So people have these foundational tools. They have like a toolkit, resource library where they can go in and learn what they need to know to heal themselves, so they don't need to work with me or anyone else for forever.
I had so many thoughts going through my head there. I didn't even have time to write it down. One, I have a friend that I like have to introduce you to. You know, when you have just like one of those like moments, you know, like a God spiritual moment where you're like, oh my gosh, they need to know each other. So that's got to happen. She's also on Instagram, but she's amazing. I think you guys would love each other. And I actually think that your businesses would go really well together. But, what I want to really like take a second to honor is that there are so many women I hear who are in this same space of knowing that they have something more to offer, you know, whether it means leaving what they're doing or just taking what they're doing, but being able to offer it out to people,
Yeah.
and they get really stuck on the like, how am I going to build a course? How am I going to do that? And it's all there at your fingertips. It's all really there. Like, I think people get caught up in like the, hey, buy this course and learn how to do this, that, and the other. And then it's more money and more money. And I'm not saying that none of those are worth it, but it's possible. We just stop ourselves from that kind of thing, right?
Yeah, yeah. And I think there's so much information overload, whether it's in the coaching space, whether it's in the health industry, all these health gurus telling you that this is the way. And that can sometimes cause people, even like myself, to freeze. And it's like, it's decision fatigue. It's like, I don't understand. I don't know if this is going to be what I'm supposed to be doing, or if this is going to be what I'm supposed to be doing. And so I struggled a lot with that. Just like I kept pivoting and I wouldn't stick with anything because I didn't know if that was going to work out how I thought it would or wanted to. And so I think one thing that helped me was just like unfollowing people that I wasn't getting value from, and just like trying to have really good boundaries within myself, with my health, and just social media in general, so that I wasn't being inundated with information and then frozen. And I see that a lot in my practice, where I tend to attract recovering perfectionist women that struggle with self-sabotage and procrastination. Because then I looked around and I was like, wait, this is because this is me. This is the path that I've come from. And it's so common. It's like when we have too many things going on in our minds, when we have a million to-do lists, we just get frozen. And then it's hard to like take the steps towards our goals, especially when they seem so big and maybe exciting, but still it's like, well, how am I going to get there?
Yeah, absolutely. And as I was going through kind of everything that I could find on you, I found just something kind of mentioning mental and emotional health and gut connection with, your hormone health and your health in general. And I think what people don't understand is how much that gut health can truly impact your mental and emotional health. So if you could kind of go into that, I know it'd be fascinating, and I hope people will like open your ears.
Yes. Yeah. I'm super passionate about this topic, so I'm really glad you brought it up. And the connection is that there's something called the gut-brain axis, and there is a direct connection between our gut health and our gut microbiome, so the bacteria in our gut, and our mental health. So we have our neurotransmitters, the majority of our neurotransmitters, so dopamine, our feel-good chemical, serotonin, our happy chemical, all these chemicals are produced mainly within the cells in our gut. And so if we have a damaged gut lining, which is often called leaky gut, it's also known as intestinal permeability. So it's when our gut lining becomes inflamed, and we have these little junctions they hold the cells are like tightly bound together. And if there's if there's an imbalance of bacteria, or if there's a lot of toxins that we're being exposed to, then it can cause those cells, those junctions, to open up and create space for toxins to move through and pass through the rest of our body. And so when that happens, those toxins pass through our bloodstream, and they activate our nervous system and can cause HPA axis dysfunction, which is basically, it's triggering our immune system or our nervous system, and can cause anxiety and cortisol spikes, so our stress hormone. So there's this really intricate connection between gut bacteria and then just inflammation and that nervous system reactivity response that can keep us stuck in fight or flight. And one thing that I find fascinating is that if we have this high level of leaky gut, which it's very connected to mental health disorders, autoimmune as well, then we can have cortisol spikes throughout the day just from one stressful incident because of this gut inflammation happening.
Okay, how are we going to fix everybody?
That's what I'm trying to do. Well, I want to empower people to fix themselves, but yes, I think so. First, to start, I always start with mindset, because you have to believe that you can heal if you're going to heal. If you think that you're never going to get better, then you won't. If you think that you can heal your body naturally, then you will. And so that's number one. I really want to empower people to shift the narrative and not identify with their diagnoses. So I know, like PCOS, for example, a lot of women struggle with PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome. And they think, oh, that diagnosis, that's what they have. And they say, I have PCOS. It's a chronic illness, blah, blah, blah. I can't heal it. But let's shift that to, I'm healing my PCOS. I'm healing my gut. I'm healing these things. I don't have IBS. I don't have gut issues, all of that. So that's step one. And step two is working on your nervous system and your stress and your mindset around stress. And so one of the tools that I love to recommend clients try is meditation. I know it's, you either love it or hate it. And that is one of those things that
I'm learning.
Yeah, it's super hard.
My brain is like, oh.
Especially if you have like an ADHD prone brain like I do, it's hard to focus. But I just say start small. Like even if it's 2 minutes first thing in the morning, hint, it's easier to meditate first thing in the morning because your brain waves are closer to theta. And so start with 2 minutes, and then the next week do 5 minutes, and then do 10 minutes the third week. So start there. Breath work also. So just taking really deep breaths in throughout the day. Just you can set timers on your phone and just try to train. You have to train your nervous system, because a lot of times we're stuck in fight or flight for so many years that we get addicted to those stress hormones and we don't actually know how to get out of it. And so this is a huge thing that I see, especially when these women have hormone imbalances and all these gut issues, anxiety, all these things. And it's like, there's so much going on. They don't know what to do. And it's like, just start with one thing, one day at a time, and then add on once you've got that thing down. And so, yeah, the nervous system, regulation, healing, mindset. The third thing would be nutrition. So one great thing that I always love to recommend is bone broth. It's really easy to find. You can make it yourself, and it has some really good nutrients to help heal and seal the gut lining, amino acids, collagen, gelatin, all these things. And that's really going to help heal, especially leaky gut. So that's one thing. And then just cutting out processed foods, alcohol, things like that.
Well, some of that doesn't sound very much fun, but no, but I understand. I understand so much. I mean, I'm 40 years old. I've had endometriosis my whole life. I'm like in perimenopause, and I'm like, what? Why? I thought I had some more time here. Not that I love my period or anything, but it's like a different thing when you start going through this and it's just so weird, the things that happen in this stage. And, so, it's funny because I've just recently been like, okay, we're meditating, and I'm not really sure where that came from, other than the fact that I have other things, I have PTSD, and I did live in fight or flight for many years. And, so, I love discussions like this where I'm learning a lot over here, and I know I love to learn about the gut and the, gut brain axis and all of that. But connecting them was not really something that I had thought of before, which it sounds ridiculous, but yeah, so I love that. And so another thing that I know a lot of people are interested in, and I know that they can learn a lot from going to your Instagram page. Do you put a lot of tips and whatnot there?
Yeah, absolutely. I try to give as much value as I possibly can. And I've even created a free resource recently called my Glow Up Guide. And it has a lot of what I've shared on Instagram from Q&As and things like that in a Google Doc. And so you can Control F and search if you're having issues with bloating or whatever. Then I'll have a section for specific remedies and things you can try, and then a section on potential root causes. So I just try to share as much as possible, a lot around gut health, hormone imbalances, energy, like energy crashes, things like that.
Okay, well, I need that. Is there a link that I can put in the show notes to make sure that anybody else who is in need of the Glow Up Guide can get it?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's awesome. Also in my Instagram bio, @aligned by
Perfect.
Avery.
Awesome. And then, okay, so you mentioned energy crashes. I know that's something that, oh my gosh, mamas out there, you're like, yeah, I know what that feels like. It's just, and you know, sometimes it's like, okay, here we are, middle of the day. Other times, like, I'm a stickler for getting my kids to the things that they commit to. And last week I literally was like, I text my husband and I'm like, I can't do it. I'm all done. Like, I'm seriously all done. I'm like a danger behind the wheel right now. I have nothing in me. I'm getting into bed. And so, yeah, talk to me about energy crashes.
Yeah. So I think one thing to point out first is look at your intake of caffeine. And look at how often you're reaching for that cup of coffee or that matcha even, because that still has caffeine. And think of that. Like for me, I noticed whenever I start to get like run down or I'm taking on too much, then that is the first thing that goes up. So that's kind of my metric. Another thing, a huge thing with energy crashes is actually tied to blood sugar regulation. So one of the things that I will preach until I die is eating breakfast, first of all. So our cortisol levels, your face. So,
I'm like, I eat my kids' leftover breakfast sometimes.
Yeah. So, and that's common, but it's the quickest thing to get more energy in your life because our cortisol levels are highest in the morning. And cortisol and blood sugar are super connected. So when cortisol levels go up, then so does blood sugar. And when we have a blood sugar crash, then we crave sugar and carbs. And then that causes us to snack and eat. We want those sugar and carbs. So then we eat, that's what we eat. And then 2 hours later, we're hungry again. And we're having these energy crashes and we're on this roller coaster. So the way to counteract that is eating more protein and fiber, eating healthy fats, and yes, still eating carbs. I never recommend any extreme diets. It's all about fueling your body with nourishing foods, but really aiming for 30 grams of protein at every meal, especially breakfast. So if you're someone that you wake up in the morning and you're not hungry.
You missed how wide my eyes got when you said that.
Yeah.
How many eggs is that? Okay.
Okay, I love this that you brought this up because there's only 6 grams of protein in one egg. So I see so many people, they're really trying. And if this is you, you're doing great, but if you're only eating 2 eggs with your avocado toast, it's not enough protein. So we've gotta up the protein. I mean, I would always recommend maybe 3 eggs if you can tolerate eggs. I know a lot of people with gut issues, they have to cut them out for a period of time while you're healing, but say that's 3 eggs or like I actually eat my breakfast as any other meal of the day. So one of my favorite breakfasts lately is I have like a turmeric coconut wrap with grass-fed ground beef, and I make homemade pesto and I drizzle some pesto on it. I have some arugula, and sometimes I'll put like a little cottage cheese on there, and that's my breakfast. It's delicious and it fills me up for 4 to 5 hours, which is how your meals, you should space your meals 4 to 5 hours apart. If you are hungry after 2 hours, like 2 hours after eating, then that's a sign that maybe you didn't get enough protein at your meal, or maybe it was too many carbs in proportion to the other things on your plate.
So are you next coming out with a cookbook?
I probably...
How about a meal service? Can you give me a meal service?
Yeah. Well, I actually just posted the other day about like my favorite high protein breakfast options. But I always refer people and clients to one of my favorite Instagram accounts. Her name's Olivia Adriance, and she has a ton of free recipes on her Instagram, on her website. And she actually just came out with a cookbook. So shout out to Olivia, but her recipes are all gluten and dairy free, egg free, I think, as well. So that's a great place to get some inspo.
Cool. Look at that. You'll have to send me your name so I can make sure that we put that down there.
I will.
Oh my gosh. Amazing. Okay. So, you talked a little bit about your spiritual awakening, and I know that we're almost at time here, but I'd love for you to kind of like try and wrap that in a bow for us. Where did you find that really came in to all of this, and what was so different about it? I know it is going to impact mindset, but I'd just love to hear kind of your take on how that helped kind of change and shift everything for you.
Yeah. Thank you for asking that. I think so. My spiritual journey, I actually used to be an atheist. So I grew up like going to the church and all that. I know everyone has a different relationship with God, universe, whatever you call it. But for me, I kind of grew up going to the church, and then I was like, no, this isn't for me. I'm an atheist. And then throughout college, I was like, okay, I know there's something else out there. But honestly, like I hadn't gone through anything super serious up until that point. And so I was just kind of living my life. I had obviously like the gut issues and things like that, but like nothing super intense. And then I went through a breakup, and, that inspired me to really learn about myself and go inward. And so I started to get really into self-development. I came across Dr. Joe Dispenza. So he teaches a lot about manifestation, quantum physics, creating your dream reality. And so I was like, okay, I know I need to shift something about myself and my life. And so I started to apply these tools of like, okay, if I want something, then let me write it down as if it's already happening. So at that point, I wanted to live in San Diego. So every day I would write down like, I'm living in San Diego in a beautiful apartment, blah, 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 blah. I can walk to the beach. And then I just started to build upon that. And so actually, when I went to San Diego, I got really into the energy healing work and started to try, like, I did a really intense breathwork session, and that was like life-changing. Like I actually felt energy moving through my hands for the first time in my life. And I was like, whoa, this is real. Like this shit is actually real. And so I've learned a lot about spirituality and God and the universe from my own experiences, obviously, and just the way that I've seen the change in myself and just been able to fully trust. But I think what really deepened my relationship with God, universe, source was when I went through my rock bottom with my health, because I remember I was sitting on my floor in my apartment, and I was crying, and I was like, what is wrong with me? Like, I don't know if I can take this much longer. Like, I don't know what I'm going to do. And I just decided I had a decision. I was like, I have to trust that there's something else out there. Like something is supporting me and I'm going to get better. And I didn't know what that was or what that looked like or whatever. But I was like, all right, God, like save me, like, please help me. And that became like the foundation for my healing, because I was able to see these little glimpses of progress and little things that gave me hope. And so I would cling on to those things and then ground myself and be like, okay, I'm safe. I'm okay. I'm supported. And then that has come into today where I look back and I'm like, wow, like I was being so supported every single step of the way. And I've just come to realize that even when I feel like I just don't feel like I have all the answers, or I don't know how something's going to work out, I just fully believe that I'm learning the lessons that I need to be able to get to that next step. And like, there's no other answer. It's like, if I don't have the answer, there's a reason for that, and I just have to surrender.
Right. Yeah. I mean, so much of the faith over fear, and I don't know how I would get through so many things that I've been through. And I have gone through some of them, questioning everything, and it's a lonely, scary place, but knowing that there is something bigger, and then being willing to like see those moments where it's like, nope, you're on the right track. Like this sucks bad balls, but like we're going here, and I'm here with you. So I think that's awesome. I think it's amazing. I want to thank you so much for being on the show. I can't wait to stalk you a little bit more. Maybe have you analyze my poop. I
would love nothing more.
I would love nothing more. You're going to be like, Katie, you are messed up.
Anyways, podcast review?
Hey, listen, I'm down for anything. All right. Like level after next, everything. Yes. I love it. I want to thank you so much for being on. You've taught us so much, and just like opening yourself up to all the questions and your experiences. It's been amazing. Is there anything else that you'd like to add as we peace out today?
I don't think that, I could talk forever about all these things and more, but yeah, if you have any questions from what we talked about today or want to learn more, just send me a DM at Align by Avery on my Instagram. And yeah, thank you so much for having me on. This was so fun.
Thank you. Yeah, we'll be sure every different way to contact Avery and, get her glow up guide to start. Go check out what she has to offer. Everything's in the show notes, you guys. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Avery.
Thank you.
We will talk again. I know it.
Yeah. See you.
All right, there it is there. Thank you so much for joining us today on Level After Next podcast. Go ahead and subscribe so you don't miss anything. Or if you really don't want to have any FOMO, head over to levelafternext.org where you can catch up with all the things. Peace out.